You can be the good guy or the guy who saves the world. You can't be both. This line here has been so powerful and is the cornerstone of what this season of Invincible has been all about. Cecil's dead man in Invincible understands this. He knows what it means to make the hard calls, to bear the weight of impossible decisions. Because in the end, they always take something away from you. Even if you hate what must be done, sometimes it's the only way to move forward. But the hardest decisions aren't the ones between good and evil. They're between two versions of right. Between saving people now or saving more people later. Between holding on to your ideals or doing what must be done. And sometimes, the right thing feels like the worst thing. This is a theme that is explored throughout all of anime, so I wanted to go through some of my favorite characters who I believe explore this dilemma the best. The first person that comes to mind is Kiritsugu Emiya from Fate Zero. His whole ideology is based on the idea of utilitarianism, where the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Throughout his entire life, we see him make impossible decisions, sacrificing individuals for the greater good. His mentor, gone, his own happiness, abandoned. Because to him, morality isn't about what feels right, it's what ensures the most people survive. But is he a hero? Is he a good man? Or just a man who decided that doing the right thing means carrying the weight of being wrong? Because ultimately, these kinds of characters, you need them to be able to make the big decisions. Because oftentimes, the biggest decisions take the greatest of hearts. They say, heroes save people, monsters sacrifice them. But what if the only way to save the most was to become the monster? Kiritsugu Emiya didn't believe in being a good guy. Not the way we're used to seeing it. He lied, manipulated, schemed, and betrayed. As long as the action was justified, then it would be the simple, unlogical decision to make. The few for the many. That was his law. That's why when his mentor was infected, he didn't hesitate. One shot, one less victim, one more disaster prevented. And that's why he lost everything. Kiritsugu made the hardest choices over and over again. He sacrificed the people closest to him to ensure a greater number survived. Not because he wanted to, but because he was willing to. But here's the thing. Sacrifice isn't just about what you lose. It's also about what it turns you into. So was Kiritsugu right? Or did he just become a man whose whole moral compass was broken long before he got to the end of his path? It is quite sad, but as I said before, it often comes down to the hardest decisions do take the strongest of wills. Aang is another great example of this. But doing what you believe is right often does take personal sacrifice and loss, as morality can be subjective, which results in your own personal convictions clashing with the world's view of the right thing to do. This is a recurring theme in Avatar: The Last Airbender. It started with the cost of mastering the Avatar state, to the dilemma of Aang not wanting to kill the Fire Lord, because his personal belief was that he shouldn't kill him. His personal belief was that taking a life was wrong, but deep down, he knew that the world needed him to act. The fate of millions rested on him. And for the first time, Aang was faced with a choice that no one could make for him. Stay true to his ideals and risk the world falling into chaos, or betray his own beliefs to ensure peace. In the end, he found a third option, one that let him keep his principles and still win. But what if he hadn't? Would he have stayed true to himself and been selfish? Or was finding another way the very thing that made him the Avatar? To everyone else, there was no choice. Kill the Fire Lord, save the world. But for Aang, that decision meant becoming something he wasn't. Aang didn't kill the Fire Lord, but he still took away what made him dangerous. He found another way. So was that mercy, or was it just another kind of justice? Because in the end, maybe the real lesson isn't about whether you can save the world and stay the good guy. Maybe it's about whether you're willing to fight for the world, without becoming the very thing you're fighting against. Itachi. When Itachi stood at the crossroads of history, he knew there was no right answer, only a necessary one. On one side of his clan and his family, the people who raised him. On the other, the village, innocents who had no idea what was coming. There was no saving both. So he did the only thing he could. Sacrifice his name, his legacy, his very existence, so others could live. But even in that sacrifice, there was one thing he couldn't give up. Sasuke. Because no matter how much he was willing to let go, he wasn't willing to let his little brother go down with him. Was that selfish? Maybe. But here's the question. Does doing the right thing still count if you can't do it perfectly? Itachi became the villain so his village could have a hero. And in the end, maybe that was the real cost. Eren Jaeger. If Itachi prioritized the majority or the minority, the village over the clan, Eren prioritized the minority or the majority, the island of paradise and his friends for the world. It emphasizes the idea that, regardless of what decision is made, ultimately, both are selfish decisions. Eren's methodology completely dismantles being a good guy or saving the world, as it really depends on what one considers as their world. But here's the paradox. Eren never saw himself as either. He wasn't a hero, he wasn't a villain, he was simply a man who had made his choice. And that choice was to act on his own will, no matter the cost. He rejected both illusions. He made a world where no one could call him the hero, and no one would claim he did the right thing. And that's the fascinating thing about characters like Eren, Jaeger, and Cecil. It's not straightforward to simply call them evil. It's not overly apparent to consider them righteous or good. But what's awe-inspiring is that they don't pretend that one is better than the other. Because at the end of the day, every choice is inherently selfish. The only difference is whether you're willing to admit it. You can't always take the goody two-shoes approach. The so-called pacifist heroes who refuse to kill often operate in absolutes. As a child watching, I used to love these characters growing up and was readily on their side. But as I grew up, I tended to go against them. As in the real world, it isn't as simple. Morality isn't black and white. It's all shades of grey. Take Gurren Lagann for example. When humanity was on the brink, a decision had to be made. Evacuate a select few into space, leaving the rest behind? Or the burden of choosing who lived and who stayed fell on one man, Rossio. Simon, our MC, was against it and struggled with this reality. How do you weigh one life against another? But Rossio, he had the resolve to make that goal. Doing the right thing isn't always about saving everyone. Sometimes it's about making the choice no one else is willing to make. It's easy to call Rossio and guys like him a monster, but ultimately, he was the one only person who was willing to do what had to be done. We even see him breaking down in tears following making the decision, and he still pushes forward, embracing the perception that he is a monster. But is he a monster? This brings me back to Cecil's philosophy. You can be the good guy, or you can save the world. You can't do both. It's a direct challenge to our archetype, the one who always does the right thing, no matter the cost. But what if the moral choice isn't the best choice? Mark believes villains should be locked away forever, while Cecil sees them as assets. It's the idea that yesterday's enemy can be today's ally, a lesson echoed in Ninjago Masters Spinjutsu, where the best way to defeat an enemy was to turn them into a friend, as shown through Lord Garmadon and Lloyd. Batman follows this mindset also, rehabilitating foes like Harley Quinn and Clayface, while others like the Punisher believe in total eradication. Caesar made the ruthless goal, but was he wrong? Maybe he should have told Mark up front, but at the same time, Mark likely would have stopped him. It's just the dilemma of leadership, doing what needs to be done, even if it costs you the trust of those around you. So what can you do? Do you hold on to your ideals, or do you make the hard choice? Cecil, Kiritsugu, Itachi, Aang, and Eren all had a different answer to that question. Some saved the world, some lost themselves in the process. But one thing is clear, when the world is on fire, the one who puts it out will always have blood on their hands. So I ask you, if it were you, which would you choose? Can you be the good guy and save the world? More often than not, these two ideas clash. And oftentimes, one comes at the expense of the other. And no matter what path you choose, it costs a part of yourself. But that's just the thing about morality. Nothing is black and white. It's all just shades of grey. Thank you for watching. These are just some of my favorite characters on this topic. I have gotten in more detail of characters such as Thanos, Ben 10, and Batman, but I definitely do love these guys. Let me know who is your favorite, and if you like a specific video for any of them, just let me know in the comments below. Besides that, thank you for watching. Until next time, bye.